Be'ezrat Hashem. It depends. If it's quiet or quiet, you can be makel. טוב, שלום עליכם everyone, בעזרת השם, נעשה ונצליח. ויהי נועם אדוני אלוהינו עלינו מעשה ידינו כוננו, עלינו מעשה ידינו כוננהו. Good to come back to our Tuesday night classes, בעזרת השם. This class will be for the success of all Am Yisrael, all the people that in the shiur. And also, Leilui Nishmat, my grandfather's, it's your side this week. Israel ben Dinar, Ruach Hashem tenachenu began Eden. Today's class is a very mysterious class, like most of our classes. We're going to speak about a mitzvah in the Torah. It's not from the Torah, it's a rabbinical mitzvah. Some opinions hold that it's even from the Torah, but it's a mitzvah that we do almost every day, we should do every day. And it's very, very tiny mitzvah that has a big, big impact on us and has a big power. And I want to reveal some of the secrets of this mitzvah today. We're going to speak about Mayim Achronim. Yeah, the last water, that's how you call it in English? Yeah, Mayim Achronim, it's the water that we wash our fingers before doing the blessing Birkat Hamazon, after eating. So when a Jew eats bread, there's a whole process of eating bread. It's not so simple to eat bread as a Jew. You have to wash your hands, make bracha on netilat yadayim, then you take the bread and you make hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and then you have to eat the bread in a certain amount of time, because then after you're satisfied from the bread, you make a bracha after the bread. It's called Birkat Hamazon. Now, there is a procedure, a small procedure, before doing the blessing of the bread, that's called Mayim Achronim. We take a little bit of water, and we basically wash our fingers, and only after that, and we say Mayim Achronim Chova, Mayim Achronim, it's a must. And then we start to say the blessing of Birkat Hamazon. Now, a lot of people, through the years I'm here in this community and also all over the world, I had this question a lot of times, that they ask, what's the point of this mitzvah? It doesn't make sense. Why do we need to wash our hands before the blessing? What does it do? What do we do that? And why we just wash a little bit? If it's for being clean, so wash the whole hands with soap and that's it. Why do we have to wash a little bit? What does it do? And of course, in Judaism, those weird things that we do usually have the biggest secrets and interesting things in them. So today I want to reveal that secret, Be'ezrat Hashem. We're going to speak about Mayim Achronim. But before that, I want to share with you something that happened on Pesach. We just came from Pesach, and I had a very interesting insight on in this Pesach. When I was doing shopping this Pesach, I said it in the synagogue, if maybe someone here. When I was doing shopping for synagogue, for myself, my wife sent me to the supermarket, and she told me, Israel, you need to buy potatoes and I think it was disposable plates, like nice plates for Pesach. Because everything else we bought, but those two things we didn't buy. So she tells me, go to the supermarket, I'm cooking, I'm doing all everything, you go, bring it. Say, no problem, I'm faked, yeah. I'm going. I went to do the mitzvah of preparing for Pesach, going to shopping, Baruch Hashem, and I get into the supermarket. This time I went to Sobeys supermarket, yeah? I don't do promotion, but just the story. And usually when I get to Sobeys, if my wife will go to make shopping, she will do it in 10 minutes, I'll do it in half an hour. And not because I don't know where things are, it's because every 2 minutes someone stops me, hey, how are you, what's that? And then I can't, really do shopping. But it took me a lot of time, but I was so embarrassed after this shopping of myself, because I came out from this shopping buying a lot of things, more than what she said, because I saw, we need that for Pesach, and we need this for Pesach, and we need that, and we need that. And I took a lot of things, but at the end, I didn't buy what she said. I was so, how you call it? My mind was in the other things that I saw, the people that I met, and the things that I thought we need for the house, that I didn't buy the potatoes. And I was so embarrassed of myself. Israel, what's happening to you? They send you for a mission. You do everything else but the mission. But this has taught me something for life, and it's opened my mind to a certain insight that we all, in a sense, like this. God sent us to this world for a mission. He wants us to do something. And a lot of us, we know what He wants. You can open YouTube and see what God wants from you as a Jew. We know we have to do something. The Gaon Mivilna says the purpose of life is to work on your character traits. The purpose of life is to get back closer to God, to be like Him, to be a good person, to fulfill the Torah and the mitzvot, which will elevate your soul and the whole world. So we know what we need to do. The problem when we come to this world, there's so many things here that are interesting, like in the supermarket, there's so many other things that you like, okay, I need this, and I want this, and I want that, and it takes your attention. And then, Hashem Yishmor, but sometimes we can come out of the supermarket of this world without the potatoes, without the actual mission. And I said to myself, if I was embarrassed in front of my wife for doing that, imagine what's going to happen after 120. Like, the world is so tempting. There's so many things here that are very interesting, that are very enjoyments that we don't want to miss. And there's no problem with them. The problem is that they make you forget your purpose. They make you forget why you're here for. That's why Rabbi Nachman says we always have to remember that the most important thing in our life is the tachlit. The Ashkenazim call it the tachlis. The tachlit. The tachlit means, you like when I speak in, I'll do it more often. The tachlis. What's the tachlis? Bekitzu. Why did I come here for? Sometimes you forget the most important thing. You came for potatoes and I forgot what else. Yeah. No, it was a disposable plates. Yeah. But then you brought everything else. Plates, I said, yeah. So make sure you don't forget the mission. For that, we have to remind ourselves every day. Maybe write it down. We have a purpose. Every morning we wake up in the morning, we read the tefillah. The tefillah reminds you why you came here for. There's a lot of other things. There is work, there is money, there is cars, there is houses, there is vacations, there is a lot of interesting things. There is beauty, there is nature to see. There is many, 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 many things. There is family, there is kids. But don't forget the potatoes. It's very important to bring them back to Hashem. Hashem told you, come and do this. So this is just a small thing that happened to me in Pesach. Now, after saying that, we can get into our topic, which I think also has a connection to that, and you'll see it at the end. Mayim Achronim Chova. This phrase is said in every Jewish home after a meal of bread. Mayim Achronim Chova, then we wash our hands. What is this custom? What is this mitzvah? And why do we do that? Now, you have to understand that everything in Judaism has reasons. God, Baruch Hashem, didn't just command us to do things. Hey, Jew, you have to put tefillin on. You have to build a sukkah. You have to eat matzah on Pesach. You have to eat maror on Pesach. We also have reasoning. Why do we eat matzah on Pesach? Why do we eat maror on Pesach? Why do we put on tefillin? Now, the reasons that the Torah brings, a lot of time, and I'm sorry to say that, but this is how it sounds sometimes, are very childish, are very simple. Oh, why do we eat matzah on Pesach? Because our fathers in Egypt, they didn't have time. They didn't have time to bake bread, so they were so in a rush, they needed to bake matzahs. So to remember what happened to them, we also eat matzahs. Someone asked me an interesting question this year. One of the children, he told me, Rabbi, you know that it says in the Torah that we collected a lot of money and jewelry from the Egyptians before going. So for that, they had time? It says in the Torah, you should knock on the doors of your Egyptian neighbors and ask them to give you jewelry and gold and things because we need to serve God in the desert. Then we're going to come back and give it to you. Yeah. But for that, they had time. I'll tell you the truth, I had a hard time to answer him. I gave him an answer. I told him, listen, this was a day before. The day that they needed to go out of Egypt, God told them fast, 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 fast. So they couldn't say no to God. They had to do it fast. That's why they needed to bake it very fast. Okay, he swallowed this, somehow. He digested this. But it's really hard. This is the real reason why we eat matzah on Pesach. This is the reason why my stomach until now cannot normally, work. Because they didn't have time. Chazaku baruch to them. Okay? I understand. It's written in our books. I will remember. You know what? I can even write it on my wall that my fathers back in the days didn't have time. And they ate matzah, and I have to remember it. But why do we have to? This is the reason why we eat only matzah. And you have to burn all the chametz. So, obviously, it is the reason. But this is the pshat reason. Pshat means the simple explanation that every kid, it will make sense to him. Sometimes also to adults. But this is not the most central reason. The central reason is always a secret, a mystical reason. The Ben Ish Chai writes, the Kaf HaChaim, Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer, they write that the real reasons of mitzvot are mystical, are spiritual. It's not a physical reason. This is for the children. This is for the grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. But to those who know a little bit more, we reveal them the secrets that are more deep, the real ones. And same as Mayim Achronim. I want to share with you what's the reasons that our sages say, why do we do this small wash before reciting the blessing of Birkat HaMazon at the end of the meal. First reason, Aruch HaShulchan, Rav Epstein and others, they say the reason is because it's not respectful to bless God in Birkat HaMazon, which, by the way, Birkat HaMazon, it's the most important blessing in the whole Torah. We have a lot of blessings. We have blessings for food before, yeah? She'akol niya bidvaro, borei pri hagefen, that we say a lot. We have blessings on things, new things that we buy. You buy a new garment, you say Sheikhianu. We have blessings on things we see. Do you know if you see a rainbow, a real rainbow, you have to say a blessing. When you see the ocean or the Mediterranean Sea, you have to say a blessing if you didn't see it for 30 days. She'asa et hayam hagadol. We have different blessings on aromas. If you have a basil that smells very good, you have to say, Borei izbeh besamim. Right, when you see a king, you have to say, when you see a big tzaddik, you have to say a certain blessing. So we have a lot of blessings, but the most important blessing that exists, the highest power blessing, is the blessing after eating bread. Birkat Hamazon. I always say that Jeff Bezos became very rich because of Birkat Hamazon. So, Birkat Hamazon is the most powerful blessing that exists. It's even higher than Tfilat Amidah, the Shmoneh Esrei. It's higher than that. In this prayer we're not allowed to move. Birkat Hamazon is higher than that. You should be more careful in Birkat Hamazon than Tfilat Shmoneh Esrei. Why? It's a mitzvah from Torah. Now, because Birkat Hamazon is such an important and powerful thing, we receive a big light, a big energy while reciting Birkat Hamazon. That's why it's not respectful to do Birkat Hamazon when your hands are not clean. Now, back in the days, people used to eat with their hands. I recently saw someone sent me an article that says that science proved today that it's a lot more tasty to eat with the fingers, with your hands. But it's not, it's not mechubad. But back in the day, I remember my grandmother, she came from Uzbekistan. She used to eat with her hands. That was normal back then. Okay, today, yeah. Even the Ben Ish Chai said, listen, it's not nice. You should eat like the culture where you are. But back in the days, they used to eat more with the hands. Yeah, for example, it's very hard to eat chicken wings with fork and knife. I know people that do it. Kol hakavod to them, But you have to be a surgeon to do it. Also, sometimes fish, It's some things are easier to eat with hands, and we do it. Hashem gave us fingers for a certain reason. And now, after doing that, you have to bless God, the most important blessing. It's not respectful to do it when your hands are not washed. So wash your hands, then do. This is the simple explanation. Why do we do this wash? And it makes sense. The second reason, is something called melach zdomit. Melach is salt, zdomit from the place called Zdom. Are you familiar with the word Zdom? Zdom and Gomorrah? Zdom ve'Amorah. Those two cities were the Las Vegas of the olden days. They say that was the nature there was the most beautiful. But the people there were very bad. And we know the story. We don't have to repeat it. God decided that this place needs to be destroyed completely. It became the Dead Sea. Sodom and Gomorrah was in the Dead Sea. And it became the Dead Sea full of salt because it's a place where there's no life. Because the place where there's no kindness, Sodom and Gomorrah, Hashem says, there's no life. Now, there was back in the days salt that was very, very famous and used, especially in Israel, called salt of Zdomit. This salt was a very good salt. Everybody used to use it for eating. But this salt, if it touches a little bit your eyes, chas v'shalom, a person will become blind. It was a very dangerous salt, not for eating, but for other things. That's why our sages back in the days, they said, because of this salt and a lot of people injured because of that, we have to make a rule that after you eat, you use the hands. After that, don't just clean it with a paper because you still have the salt on your hand. You have to wash it to prevent us from, chas v'shalom, being blind. And because back then, they used to have this salt, even though today we don't have it, we still keep the tradition. That's a simple explanation. Some rabbis, by the way, said that because today we don't have this type of salt, you don't need to do Mayim Achronim. That's why you see sometimes, usually women, in some places, some culture, some groups of Judaism, they don't do Mayim Achronim. Yes, not all Ashkenazi women, some Ashkenazi women. Which, based on this reason, that melach zdomit, this salt, we don't have it anymore, so we can be more lenient. So for the men, we tell them, okay, you be more strict, but for the women, which women less deal with for women, it's a lot more, it's easier to fix the food than for a man. It's a whole Kabbalistic thing. Rabbi Israel speaks about it, that he says that a woman doesn't need so much to elevate a soul that is reincarnated in food. She just needs to say good blessing. A man need to have a Torah learning in that meal to elevate completely that soul. Blessing, Torah learning. So for women, in general, everything that has to do with food, we're less machmir. They can eat before prayer. They can, different things that we don't do. So that's why in those groups, they were more lenient, which makes sense according to the simple explanation of what Mayim Achronim is. But today I want to tell you what the Zohar, what Kabbalah speaks about Mayim Achronim, and here is the real reason. To tell me that, even though we don't have the salt today, we'd have to keep the tradition. It's not a reason. It is a reason, but it's not explaining me what's the importance of Mayim Achronim is. The Zohar reveals the mysticism behind Mayim Achronim. And he says the following. The Zohar say that, okay, for that we have to understand a little bit how the physics of the spiritual world works. Okay, so put your seatbelts and we're going into the mysticism. Yeah. So the Zohar says the following. The Zohar says that God created in the world good and bad. Everything is good and bad. Look at the movies. All movies, they have the same scenario. They are good, they are bad. The good fights the bad. And then, most of the time, the good, Baruch Hashem, this is a happy end. The good wins, and the not happy end is that the bad wins. But all the movies has the same, if you look at it, you analyze it like that, it's the same, just different details. Now, why the movies are like this? Because our life is like this. In our life, we have good, we have bad. What you teach the child? This is good, this is not good. We have good and we have bad, and they fight with each other. So there are good powers in the world, there are bad powers in the world. The bad powers in the Zohar, they called Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra means the other side, which was also created by God for a certain reason, to test us. We need him. But this is the bad side. And there is the good side. Now, God gives energy of life. where does the bad side, the Satan and all his group, get power to live, to exist? They get it from the same source, from the Kedusha, from the holiness, from God. Now, where the holiness of God, the godly, the Kedusha, where is the holiness located? In the Jews. They carry the main mission of life. They carry all the holy things. That's why the bad side always wants to attach himself to the holy places. That's why all the other religions, especially the bad religions that wants to kill everybody, and you know who I'm talking about, they took over all our holy places. Oh, you have the temple? We'll take it. Oh, you have the grave of Yosef HaTzadik? It's ours also. It's also our holy place. Oh, you have the grave of Shmuel HaNavi? It's also our place. We also pray there. They come to all the holy places. Why? Because they want to get energy. They need to eat. Same thing, they say that when a Jew dies, he is tameh. He is impure. Why? Because the soul leaves, there is leftovers of the holiness of that Jew, who comes to take a little bit of that holiness that is left over, the bad powers. That's why it becomes impure. Not because he was impure. No, it's the bad power that came. Same thing is women. Pregnant women. It says in the Torah that she shouldn't go outside alone at night. Also after labor. She shouldn't go outside alone at night for 30 days. Why? Because the bad powers are more likely to take holiness from her because she has more. She has a baby which is very pure. Yeah. Could be that this is very, very likely. Yeah. Depression after pregnancy. There is also psychological explanations why it's happening. But from a spiritual perspective, she is more open to the bad powers to attack her. Why? She has a lot of holiness. So they have what to grab. She needs more protection. That's why they say, always go with someone. Women in general are more likely to be, basically, I call it attacked or taken energy from them than men. Why? Because women, according to Kabbalah, they are called the Malchut. They are in the bottom of the 10 Sfirot. So they are the closest to the other side. Also, women carry all the energy of the men. Means, according to Kabbalah, let's say you do a lot of mitzvot, a lot of good things. Everything goes to your wife. She's the vessel that holds everything. That's why it says on Abraham that all the blessing that Abraham has is because of his wife. Why? She carries everything. He does it, it goes to her. She is the storage of all the blessing, of all his achievements, spiritual achievements. Now, because she is the storage, everything is in her. What happens? The Sitra Achra wants to suck the energy from her more than everybody else. That's why the Torah says to women to be more modest. Why? Because every layer that you cover, it has nothing to do with being attractive, or it's to do with being protected from the other side, from taking the energy that your husband and you worked on, all the fixings that you did, and to not give it to the bad powers. That's why women cover her hair, by the way. According to Kabbalah, all the light of the husband reveals in her, the roots of her hair. That's why according to Kabbalah, wigs actually make sense. Some people say, why wig? What's a wig? So you take a hair of someone else and you put it, it doesn't. But there's a lot of rabbis that said it's okay. Okay, I'm not getting into it's allowed or not allowed. Each one will ask his, his chacham, because both of them are right. But depends to who and when. But according to Kabbalah, wigs works. Why? Because it covers the roots. The problem is to reveal the light outside so the bad powers will not take it. So that's why women need more protection. What's a protection? When you have every also not just women, also Talmidei Chachamim, scholars of Torah, they need to wear more garments than normal people. Why? Because they have more light. They learn Kabbalah, they learn Mishnah, they learn Gemara. They have a lot of light. The bad power wants to take from them more. They need protection from them. So the garments, each one of them has an or mekif, has a surrounding light. It's protecting you. So, because of that, going back to Mayim Achronim, what it has to do with Mayim Achronim? The real reason. So Mayim Achronim, basically, what happens is when we eat, we basically do one of the most important missions that we were sent here for. Because God put in this world a lot of holy sparks. It's called in Kabbalah Nitzotzot Kedusha. And we need to levarer otam, to elevate, but it's not just elevate, we have to, birur means borer. You know, melechet borer in Shabbat? It's to separate, We have to separate the good holy sparks from this bad material world. Separating the good from the bad, that's our job. Every mitzvah that we do separates a certain good from bad. So when we eat, it does the biggest separation of good from bad. That's, by the way, what's your digestive system do. When you eat an apple and it gets to your stomach, what happens? Our body knows how to take the good from the apple and to separate from the bad, from the waste, and take the waste away. This is in the physical level. In the spiritual level, when we eat and we make a bracha, we take the holy sparks inside us and we leave the bad. The bad goes away with the waste. And that's how we separate the good from the bad. That's why eating is one of the most important jobs. That's why Jews everywhere have eating. Everywhere. Everything you do in Judaism somehow has food. Shabbat, you have to eat 3 times. Yom Tov, you have to eat. You have a baby born, you have to eat. Someone died, you also have to eat. After 30 days, Pidyon HaBen, you have to eat. A wedding, you have to eat. And it's not just you have to. Why I have to eat so much? It's not healthy. You have to eat because this is one of the main jobs that we do. The biggest separation of good from bad is done by eating. Also, it's done by every mitzvah. When you do sukkah, you separate bad from good. When you do matzah, you separate bad from... But when you eat, you do it in the highest level. Now, that's why today the table is considered as an altar, mizbeach, and the korban, the sacrifice, is the food that we eat. Now, the problem is that the bad powers, because we elevate so much in eating, they come right away to the table. And they want to have a share. And having a share for them is by being mekatreg. What is mekatreg? The evil comes and say bad things about us as basically saying that we don't do our job properly. We don't eat because we want to fix, we want to elevate, we want to do our mission. We eat because we just want to enjoy, which is a lot of times true. But this is what the Mekatreg says, and then he destroys basically our elevation, our fixing. More than that, because the bad powers don't have any other source of life, only from the holiness, we have the obligation to give them a small part so they leave us alone. And if we don't give it to them, we are in trouble with them. I'll give you an example. I was in Russia not long ago, and in Russia things work differently than here. If a policeman caught you on the street, you just give him something and he leaves you away. Okay? And not just in that. Any position you want to get, you have to give them a little bit. They make you troubles by purpose. But if you give a little bit, okay, we'll leave you alone. The same way the Sitracha, the bad powers work. Yeah, Russia learned from them. That's why Russia is Rasha, the same word. So, this is the way how evil works. You have to give them a little bit. A little bit of what? A little bit, a share in your energy. So now you do a big tikkun, elevation, fixing in food, and there is a souls reincarnated in the food, and you elevate those souls right now. So there's a big tikkun happening, big light coming from heaven, big shefa, blessing. And now you're going to do Birkat Hamazon. Bichlal, you're going to have a lot of bracha. Most of the parnasa of the person depends on Birkat Hamazon. Now, if you don't give a share to the bad powers, you're in trouble. So what do? We give them a small amount of a part in our seuda. What's the part? Mayim Achronim. By washing your hands, this water that comes down, right away, the bad powers jumps on them, and they take a little bit of share of energy, and they leave you alone. That's what the Zohar explains. That's why we need to do it. And if you don't do it, you are basically taking their share. You leave it with you. And then they have an ability to be mekatreg and to stay with you and to cause you spiritual problems, which can lead to physical problems as well. That's why, and now I want to tell you a big chidush, because Mayim Achronim has a big connection with relationships. Our relationship with our spouse has a big connection to Mayim Achronim. And this is something that Rabbi Eliyahu Cohen from Izmir reveals. He reveals a big insight, chidush. He says a story that brought out in the Gemara, and from that story he explains this chidush. The story is about Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. You heard of him? Yeah, this Rabbi Meir that everybody lights a candle for him, buried in Tveria. The only person that is buried, stand. Rabbi Meir, maybe someone is stuck there. Rabbi Meir is one day goes with his friends to a certain city to do some things, and they needed to stay for a few days in that city, so they go take an hotel. They went inside the hotel. The manager of the hotel say hello, welcome. It's cost this and this money. Please, this is your place, your suite. they go into the room. They remember that they have. They remember that they have. They remember that they have money with them. And that money that they have, they are very afraid to go with that money outside because robbers, they can take the money. So what they do, they go to the manager and they ask him, listen, do you have a service that you save the money in the, in the safe? He says, of course, no problem. I'll give you a number. Leave the money with us. Now, Rabbi Meir was concerned. Rabbi Meir said that, I don't know, maybe he's not going to give me the money back. So he decides to basically ask him, what's your name? He tells him, my name is Kidor. Rabbi Meir knew all the Torah by heart. So he thinks, Kidor, 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 Parashat Ha'azinu. There is a sentence. Kidor ta'apuchot hema, banim lo emun bam. It means this generation is not stable. Those people, you can't believe them. The generation is not stable. You can't believe those people. And he says, okay, so I can't believe that person. What does he do? He says, I'm not going to give him the money. He leaves the money with him, and he goes to take the money to the cemetery. He takes the money to the cemetery, and after taking the money to the cemetery, he puts it somewhere there, and he knows that everything will be fine. After a few days, they come back to that Kidor. Those friends of Rabbi Meir, they ask him, okay, can you give us the money back? He says, what money? You didn't give me anything. So Rabbi Meir was right. Okay, they didn't know what to do. It's a lot of money. But then Rabbi Meir told them, 1 second, don't worry, I'll get you the money. How? He saw that this man, the manager, he had a little bit of lentil on his beard. And this lentil that he had was maybe from the soup that he ate in the morning. So he says, okay, I have an idea. He went to his wife's home. They knocked the door. They told her, hi, we came to take the money that we left with your husband. He told us to come to take it. She's like, how do I know that she's saying the truth? Says, he told us the code. He said that you ate a lentil soup this morning. All right. Okay, so come in. They came in, they took the money, they left. This guy came home. He thought, Baruch Hashem, I made a lot of money today. He comes home. She's telling him, yeah, I gave the money to the guys that you sent today. Which guys? Those guys, the Jews. He was not Jewish. He's like, what? You gave them the money? Why? Ma, they said we ate lentil. They knew. I thought you told them. No, I didn't tell them. And then she starts to. There's two opinions in the Gemara what happened. He got so mad at her. One opinion says he divorced her. The other opinion says he started to hit her and she died. The Gemara ends the story with a statement. Look what happened because he didn't do Mayim Achronim. That's how the Gemara ends. If he would wash his hands, everything would be better. What does that mean? So usually when a person washes hands, those people that do Mayim Achronim and then they also clean the beard, right? You clean also. Because if your hands are not washed, you're not going to clean yourself. But if your hands are washed, you're going to clean. If he would wash his hands before or after the meal, he would clean himself, they would not see the lentil, they would not take the money, and then he would not divorce or kill her. So that's how the Gemara ends. Look how Mayim Achronim is important, it saves lives. Now, Rabbi Eliyahu Kohen says in this Gemara something very, he says, obviously something is very deep in this Gemara. The Gemara wants to teach us something. Mayim Achronim has a connection to your relationship. He says, Mayim Achronim, if you do it, it makes peace between a husband and a wife. And if you don't do it, you neglect it, you ignore it, it can cause problems between a husband and a wife. Now, how he explains how? He says two ways. We know that everything that God do is midah keneged midah, measure and measure. He says, a person that did Mayim Achronim, what did he do? He gave the bad powers their part. If you didn't give the Sitra Achra, the bad powers their part, the Sitra Achra says, now I have a control on your part. Who is your second part? Your spouse. You didn't give me my part, I have a control on your part. And then they make fights between each other. Another thing is, it says, you don't do Mayim Achronim, says Rabbi Eliyahu Kohen from Izmir. So you didn't give the part to the Sitracha, to the bad powers. So their part is with you. Because their part is in you, you didn't give it to them, he has a control on you, and when he is there, problems in the family. That's why if you do Mayim Achronim, basically, you bring peace to the house. Now, this doesn't mean that, just do Mayim Achronim and you're going to live like, we say in Hebrew, like Zug Yonim, like dove. No. You have to be a normal person to live a good life with your wife or with your husband. You have to know how to, put your ego down and how to, be a mensch. Be a good wife, be a good husband. But there's also sometimes tension in the house, sometimes bad energy in the house, sometimes things that it's not us. I'm good, she is good, but somehow we always don't understand each other. Sometimes it's the energy. And this is very likely to be affected by giving the Sitra Achra their part or not. Now we have this in different places in the Torah, giving the bad powers a part. We do it in Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, there is a sacrifice for the bad powers. It's called Sa'ir La'azazel. We give a goat to the... Why? Because Yom Kippur, we get such a big light and blessing. Also, they want a dear share. If not, we're going to be in trouble. We give them their share. In Tefillin, you know that in Tefillin, we have those hairs. Small hairs coming out of the Tefillin. I don't know if you pay attention to that. They're very small. There is a reason why they are small. This is a hair of a calf, of a tail of a calf. This is the place where we give to the bad powers a place to suck a little bit of the holiness of the Tefillin. This is their share in our Tefillin mitzvah. That's why we don't make it big. We make it very, very small because we don't want to give them too much. But we have to give them. This is rules of spiritual world. Same thing as Mayim Achronim. That's why when we do the Mayim Achronim, we don't do too much. If it was just for washing, okay, so wash the whole hands. Why only the fingers? Because we don't want to give them too much. But we can't also not give them at all. So we do a little bit. Ben Ish Chai says you have to only wash the fingers, so the fingers will be wet. That's it. But don't put too much water. You're giving them too much. Also, this water, when it drops down, You have to make sure it doesn't goes on the floor and people step on it, because now there is a tumah in it, there is impurity. The sitracha is there. Someone will step on it, it will affect him. That's why we do it in a vessel. We spill it to the sink or to the washroom. Why? Because that's the deep reason why we do that. And this is just in one example that I gave you today with Mayim Achronim. Every mitzvah has those deep reasons. There is a book called Shut Min HaShamayim. Shut Min HaShamayim is a book was written by Rabbi Yaakov Mimroish somewhere 900 years ago. This book is a very, very interesting book. It's a book that is built on questions that this rabbi asked the heavens, God, and every question he asked, they came into his dream and answered him. In Judaism, there is a system called She'elat Chalom. She'elat Chalom, it's to ask a question in a dream. You do some preparations, usually it's a fasting of one day, and then you do different Mizmorei Tehillim. And there's different ways. I have a book that teaches you 50 different ways to do She'elat Chalom. Then you go to sleep, you ask a question, you go to sleep, and in the dream you get an answer. Very interesting. My rabbi told me that when he was single, he knew how to do that. He learned a very good method of that is easy to do. And he asked to see his soulmate, means his wife, future wife, in the dream. He did all the preparations. At the end, before he went to sleep, he asked for that, and then he regretted. He says, why do I need to, make God, do those things for me? He decided, okay, I don't want it. He went to sleep, and anyways it came. He told me, I saw her in the dream. I saw every part of her face. I remember that as if she was, when he dated her, he knew already, like 100%, this is the one. He didn't have any doubts. Baruch Hashem, they have like 14 kids. So, this is She'elat Chalom. Now, Rabbi Yaakov Mimroish wrote a whole book. He took all the interesting questions of the Talmud that were not solved. Teiko. The two rabbis said one, and they said that there's no conclusion. And he asked those in the dream, he wanted answers for those things. All the interesting questions. One of the questions he asked, what is the true tefillin? The Rashi tefillin or the Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? The two different tefillin. He got an answer for that. And one of the questions he asked in this book is, what is the reason, or if do we need still to do Mayim Achronim because we don't have the salt, the Melach Zdomit anymore? And you know what is the answer that he got? He got an answer that it's very important, and it's one of the most important mitzvahs, which looks very, very simple, but it has a big, sometimes those simple mitzvot count very much. And at the end they told him, V'kol ha'mekelim b'mayim achronim, those who don't properly do mayim achronim or don't do it at all, mekelim et mezonotehem min hashamayim. From heaven, they damage their income. Means he got an answer that Mayim Achronim even have an effect on our income, for good or bad. In another place, other rabbi says that the quality and quantity of life also affected by if you do Mayim Achronim or you don't do Mayim Achronim. I mean, sometimes you deserve to live more because you do Mayim Achronim very properly. Or Chaz v'Shalom, to die before time because you ignore this mitzvah, before the time you need it. So we see that this mitzvah is a very, very important mitzvah. And it reveals us how beautiful is the Torah and how deep is the Torah. For such a small thing, okay, just water. This water has a big power. And it also tells us how every other, if this small mitzvah have so much deepness in it. What are the big mitzvot means? It makes me more curious to learn that. So interesting. What is matzah? What is maro? 4 cups of wine in Pesach. If you learn according to Kabbalah, what is this? You would want to eat 8 cups. To drink 8, yeah? It's mamash matanot. It's presents that God gave us, and we don't because we don't understand what it is, we don't appreciate. But those big tzaddikim that knows those things, you need to see the excitements how they do lulav in Sukkot. You need to see the excitement. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Mibarditchev, when he was taking the lulav, he was so excited. He had a glass cover for the etrog. He just broke it and took it. All his hand was bleeding. He didn't care, just to take it fast. They understood what they're doing. Now we don't understand, but we have to understand. Now we understand a little bit how Mayim Achronim can help us financially. Shalom bayit, peace at home, long life, health, just for small Mayim Achronim. And the last thing, it's not just to do the Mayim Achronim. For men and women, it's also in between Mayim Achronim and Birkat Hamazon. It's very important to not talk in between. You did Mayim Achronim, do right away the bracha. Why? There is a story with Arizal and Rabbi Chaim Vital. Rabbi Chaim Vital, one time, some say him, some say his friend, his shoulder was pain. Mamash in pain. He came to Arizal and his teacher and asked him, Rabbi, I don't understand what happened. I didn't do anything. He says, oh yeah, it's because you speak in between Mayim Achronim and Birkat Hamazon. He says, first of all, you're right. I do. But what's the connection? He says, it says in the Talmud, Techef lenetila beracha. Techef is right away. Right away after you wash, don't speak, don't do anything. Right away start the blessing. And the word techef in Hebrew, right away, is the same letters of katif, a shoulder. And those who don't do it properly, like you, that you speak in between, it damages the shoulder. So start doing it well, and it will help you. He did, and Baruch Hashem, he healed. So we see that Mayim Achronim, it's very important for all those things. We should do it a little bit, only the fingers. And we should say also Mayim Achronim Chova. Why do we say Mayim Achronim Chova? On any mitzvah, we don't see this Chova. We don't say Tfilin Chova. Keep Shabbat Chova. Shake Lulav in Sukkot Chova. Why Mayim Achronim all of a sudden is Chova? Chova means mandatory. Everything is mandatory. But why here you just give it the word mandatory? Actually, the word Chova, according to Kabbalah, it's the name of the bad angel that comes to the table when we eat, to take the energy. So we say, Mayim Achronim Chova, it's his. Give it to him. You understand? Also, Chova means mandatory. And also, by saying this phrase, we always will have a Torah learning in our table. It's very important to say Divrei Torah on the table, but sometimes we forget. Ben Ishchai say, if you get used to say Mayim Achronim Chova, it's an halacha. It's a Torah learning. It's very short, but it's Torah. So you will fulfill the obligation of learning Torah in a case that when you don't have time or you forget, when you say Mayim Achronim Chova, it's as if you learn Torah on the table. As Bezrat Hashem, hopefully we'll do Mayim Achronim now with a lot more motivation and understanding and spreading the word to other people, and knowing that Mayim Achronim is Chova, is a mandatory for men and women, and we also have to educate our children to do so. And by doing that, we receive a big blessing, giving their dear share. They would not bother us. And making sure, Baruch Hashem, that we have a shalom bayit, good parnasa, and Bezrat Hashem also long life. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. B'siyata dishmaya. Next week, as I told you, there's no class. Bezrat Hashem, after that, we'll let you know when I come back from Budapest. Bili Neder, I will pray for you guys in Kivret Tzadikim. We're going to a big Maharal mi Prague and Rabbi Israel Yakobov, very, very big righteous people. Bezrat Hashem, for those who come to our shiurim, get a special blessing. Bezrat Hashem, for all the good things. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen v'amen. Bezrat Hashem, see you next time, Bezrat Hashem. Questions? Yeah.